Hello math friends. So we're continuing with our operations of fractions. We've talked about adding, subtracting fractions, and now this video will be about dividing fractions. Now, there's no one page devoted to dividing fractions, but it's really important. There's a couple of review pages that have a couple of division problems, but I do want to spend a video just working on the division. Division and multiplication of fractions is really quite easy. It's just more fun. It's not super stressful. So the next two videos will go pretty quick. So when we divide fractions, there's just one think track you have to keep in mind. Keep, change, flip, and multiply. Okay, we follow KCFM. Keep means, if this is our original problem, 3/4 divided by 1/6. Okay, we keep the first fraction the same, okay, 3/4. You flip the division sign to multiplication, okay? The reason why we do that is when you divide something, you're breaking it up into smaller pieces, right? And if you break something up into smaller pieces, you actually get more. How do you get more? What operation causes you to get more? Multiplication. So if you have, I always use this in class, if you have a cookie and you drop that cookie on the floor, it's going to break. It's going to break into lots of different chunks and crumbs, but the fact is they're all smaller pieces. Okay? You're going to get more pieces. Even though they're smaller, you're getting more. So that is why we have to change division to multiplication. To make up for that change of operation, we have to flip the second fraction to its reciprocal. So the reciprocal is when you just switch the numerator and denominator. So instead of 1/6, you flip it around and it becomes 6/1. Then you multiply straight across. Okay? No finding common denominators, no lining anything up. You just multiply straight across. 3 times 6 is 18. 4 times 1 is 4. The one thing you do have to do is if you get an improper fraction at the very end, you do have to convert it. And you use D into N. And you'd get 4 and 2/4. You probably have to simplify it as well, but there's no room for that. Okay. Things to keep in mind. If you're dividing with a whole number, put that number over 1. So if we were just given a 3 times, say 1/2, not times, 3 divided by 1/2, you'd have to put this 3 over 1. Putting a whole number over 1, it gives it a fraction costume. It doesn't change the value of that 3. If you put the 1 on top of the 3, then you completely change the value. But this is still 3 wholes. The 1 is just a way to give it a costume, make it look like a fraction. Okay, so let me show you a couple of problems. Okay, so I have 2 pieces put together. That's why they look a little wonky. I know the numbers are out of order, and that is okay. We cut this page apart just to make more room to show your work. Okay. So the one thing you have to remember when dividing fractions is our think track. So whenever you're practicing dividing fractions, write this really big across the top. Keep, change, flip, multiply. Okay, keep, change, flip, multiply. I don't expect you to write the words, right? So let's write abbreviations. Keep, change, flip. And then you can either use the M for multiply or you can just use the multiplication symbol. Students do it both ways. Okay? So we keep the first thing to recognize is that there's a whole number. Okay? We have to give it a costume. We have to make it look like a fraction without changing the fact that it's 4, the value of it. So you just put it over 1. Okay, now keep the first fraction the same. Change division to multiplication. Flip the second fraction. So instead of 4/1, we're going to put 1/4. And then you multiply. Go straight across. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 4 is 8. And there you have it. That's all division of fractions are. As long as you remember, keep, change, flip, multiply. Put the whole number over 1. You have to give it a costume. You have to make it look like a fraction. Keep, change, flip, and then multiply straight across. 4 over 32. Okay, now we do have to simplify. Okay, put in simplest forms if you need to. So find that greatest common factor. Okay, which is a 4, and you'd get 1/8. And that is our answer. Okay, if you're wondering when you would use some of this, you could have, think of problems like this. I have 2/4 of a bag of trail mix left, and I have 10 people that want to share that. Okay, keep, change, flip, multiply. How much will each person get of that trail mix? So I'm going to keep my 2/4 the same. I'm going to change division to multiplication. I'm going to make that look like a fraction, and I'm going to flip it. And we're going to get 2/40. You're going to divide by the GCF, and you're going to get 1/20. So if you have 2/4 of a bag of trail mix, and you have 10 friends that want to share it, they're each going to get 1/20 of the trail mix. So there's probably like 1 M&M. Okay, let's just move to this side and I'll show you. Why don't you copy these 3 problems down and see if you can solve them. Okay, pause the video if you need to. Okay, most important, just keep those 4 steps. If you keep these 4 steps in your mind, you will never have a problem with dividing fractions. Keep, change, flip, multiply. Keep the first one the same, change the sign, flip, multiply, 1/12. Okay, so we've done 4 practices exactly the same. Let's jump down to the bottom briefly to like 11 and 12. Oh, you know what? I want to show you, I did ask you to copy those down, so let me show you how to solve 6 and 10. I'm going to solve them, you narrate. And it does help. Even if you feel funny, do, call things out in the computer. Okay, and for the second problem here to finish. Keep, change, flip, multiply. Keep the first fraction the same, change the sign, flip, and multiply. Oops, sorry about that. So those were those problems. Now I do want us to look really quick at 11. Where is it? There we go. 11 and 15. So when we divide, just like when you find out when we multiply fractions next, when you have a mixed number, you have to turn it to an improper fraction first. So that just adds in it. We still are going to do keep, change, flip, multiply, but we have to convert this to an improper fraction first. So we're going to keep this the same. Okay, we're still going to change. But now, do you remember how we're supposed to convert? If you forget, go back to your study guide and know that when you convert a mixed number to an improper fraction, we follow that snow falls to the ground and then you add. Okay, you put a multiplication sign, an addition sign, you multiply the denominator and the whole number, whatever that product is, you add to the numerator, and that's your fraction. Okay, so following that, we're going to say snow falls to the ground, and then we add 8 times 2 is 16. 16 plus 2 is 18. So we're supposed to have 18 eighths, but we have to flip that. So we're going to put 8 over 18. And then you multiply straight across. 4 times 8 is 32. And then don't be afraid to do a side problem. 18 times 5, 40, 5, 9, 90. Okay? Now, that is going to be able to be simplified, and I believe it is going to be a 2. Let me move that out of the way. So this is going to equal 16/45. Okay. But the only change is that you had to get rid of that improper fraction. Okay. Keep, change, flip, multiply. 4/8, change. I'm going to first turn this to an improper fraction. So 8 times 1 is 8. Snow falls to the ground, and then I add. So it's 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. So I have 10/8, but I have to flip that around because I'm on the F. Flip. 8/10. And then I multiply. 4 times 8 is 32. 8 times 10 is 80. Again, we're going to simplify by dividing by 2. We're going to get 16/40. But you know what? That wasn't the greatest common factor. I notice that I can multiply 16 or divide 16 and 40 again. And they're going to share a 4. We're going to have 4/10. We can simplify again. I definitely did not pick the greatest common factor. Finally, our final answer is 2/5. These are actually all equivalent. 2/5 is equivalent to 4/10 is equivalent to 16/40 is equivalent to 32/80. But if anything, this, and I bet you can't see it, sorry. If anything, this shows you that if you don't pick the greatest common factor, you're going to have to keep simplifying until you get to the smallest amount. Okay, so that is division of fractions. Keep in mind what our step is. Keep, change, flip, multiply. And I believe that is it. Okay, if you need to, there's, like I said, there's division in a couple of the review, in the review pages. So keep in mind these steps. Keep, change, flip, multiply.